Hi everyone, today I want to show you my go-to method of edging a ripple blanket. It's simple, it's just 5 rounds so it doesn't take too long, and I think it looks great. If you haven't already filled in your peaks and troughs of your ripple, then you'll need to do that before you head on into this tutorial, and I do have a video that shows you how to do that and I've linked it at the top now. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So the first round of edging makes or breaks your blanket, because if you don't get the right amount of stitches along these long edges here, then your blanket can pull tight if you don't have enough stitches, and if you've got too many then you'll end up with a ruffled edge. So really getting the stitch count right along the side edges for your border is the most important part of any border for any crochet blanket. I made this project using a 4mm hook, but when I edge my ripple blankets I like to go down a hook size, so I am using a 3.5mm hook for the edging on this blanket. If you've used heavier yarn, then you want to just make sure that you size down one hook size from the hook that you used for your ripple blanket. For this edging, the first round is just single crochet, so you want to join your yarn at any point along either of the bottom or top edges. It really doesn't matter. The join looks the neatest if you use one of the single crochets from your straightening rows as the joining point. So you want to get the yarn that you're using for your edge and pull up a loop. Please don't forget that throughout this whole tutorial I'm using USA terms. So you want to chain one, that does not count as a stitch, and you want to pop a single crochet back in that same stitch that you've just chained one from. And then you want to single crochet all the way along to the last stitch in the row. When you get to the last stitch of the row, you want to work 3 single crochet into the last stitch. So 3 single crochet all into that same stitch. And that's what forms our corner. When we work our side edges for this blanket, you want to work into these double crochets here, and you want to pop 2 single crochets into each of those double crochets all the way along. So 1, 2, then into the next one, again 2. So you're wanting to work 2 single crochets into each double crochet of your ripple all the way along until you get to the bottom. When you get to the end of the row, you work 2 single crochet into the chain 2 from your starting row, your straightening row, and then you work 3 single crochet into the first double crochet from the straightening row. And then again you want to work a single crochet into each stitch along this edge until you get to the opposite corner. When you get to the final stitch, you want to work 3 single crochet into that final stitch. And then same as we did on the opposite edge, you want to work 2 single crochet into each of your double crochet posts from the main body of the blanket. Into the first single crochet from the straightening row, you want to again work 3 single crochets to form your corner. And then you want to single crochet along back to the point where you started your round. Once you get to the final stitch, you want to find the top of your first stitch, not the chain, but the first stitch, and you want to join it with a slip stitch like that. Now this round here that we've just done can form the basis for any type of edge that you want to do, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I carry on and how I edge all of my ripple blankets. So for our second round of edging, we are going to work into only the back loops, which gives a nice little ridge, and we are going to work half double crochet. So to start the round off, you want to chain 1 and work a half double crochet into the back loop only. So normally you would work a stitch into both loops. You want to pick up just the back loop. The first stitch can be a little tight. Just the back loop and work a half double crochet. And then you want to do the same thing all the way along, working a half double crochet in each stitch from the round below until you get to that corner cluster of 3 single crochet from the previous round. Once you approach this corner cluster from the previous round, you can see we have 1, 2, 3 single crochets in that one stitch. The general rule of thumb for corners is that you work your corner cluster into the middle stitch from the corner cluster below. That can vary because the stitches can shift a little bit the more rounds that you do, but generally for at least the first 2 rounds you will work your corner cluster into the second stitch of the 3 stitches from the round below. So into this middle stitch of the cluster 3 we want to work 3 half double crochets. And you want to do the same thing all the way around. So you want to carry on half double crocheting in every stitch all the way around, working 3 half double crochets into the middle stitch from the corner cluster of the round below, and I will meet you back at the end of the round to show what we do next. Once you get to the end of the second round, you want to pop a slip stitch into the top of that first stitch that you did, not the starting chain but the actual first half double crochet that you did, and close the round with a slip stitch. Round 3 is pretty much the same as round 2, but you're going to be working your half double crochets into the whole stitch, not just the back loops. So you want to again chain 1 and work a half double crochet back into that same stitch. And you want to work half double crochets all the way along until your corner cluster. Now, although our general rule is to work into the middle stitch of the corner cluster, the more rounds of crochet you do, you'll find that these corner clusters drift. So the middle one doesn't always sit right on the end of the corner where ideally you'd want your corner to be. So you can just pop your corner into the second stitch every round if you want to, that's fine, but I like to eyeball mine and move my corner cluster according to where the natural corner of the blanket falls. So for this one, it's actually the 3rd stitch of the cluster that I'm going to work into and not the 2nd one. And for each subsequent round, I will just eyeball to see where the corner is. Normally, 1 round of working into the 3rd stitch just pushes the corner back to where it should be, and then in the next round you'd work into the middle stitch again. But trust your instincts, go by where it feels that the corner naturally falls. You don't have to always stick to the 2nd stitch in that corner cluster. And then again, we're just going to finish this round all the way around, working half double crochets in every single stitch, and then into our corner we work 3 half double crochets, and you just find the natural point of the corner. If for you that's the middle stitch of the 3 stitches, great. If not, then don't be afraid to just move it to a point that feels more natural for you. So this is the end of round 3. I've gone around and worked all the way around with my half double crochets, working 3 into the corner cluster wherever it feels natural to have the corner to keep it nice and square. And like with the previous round, we are going to join to the first stitch in the round with a slip stitch, ignoring those chains that we worked at the beginning of the round. Round 4 is super easy. It's just single crochets, single crochet all around and working 3 single crochets into your corners. Again, to start the round I like to chain 1. That does not count as a stitch. It just helps to give the first stitch of the round a little more definition for when we join it at the end. So do a single crochet back into that same stitch and then single crochet all the way around, popping 3 single crochets into the corner clusters. And just like the previous round, we are working into both loops. We're not working into just the back loops, we are picking up both of those loops. So that's round 4 done. You want to join the last stitch of the round to the first stitch of the round with a slip stitch like we have done for all the other rounds. And then the final round that I do of my 5 round border is a round of reverse single crochet, or it's also known as crab stitch. This is my favourite way to finish a blanket because it gives the most beautiful rolled edge and just somehow finishes it off in a way that no other crochet stitch does. For this round, you work all the way around, just 1 stitch in each stitch. You don't work any corner clusters, you just work 1 stitch into every stitch. And the reverse single crochet is a little bit awkward to get the hang of, but once you've got the hang of it, it's really not difficult at all. And it's as simple as the name suggests. So we want to chain 1 to start just to give us a little bit more room. And for reverse single crochet, instead of working round your project from right to left, you're going to be working round from left to right. You're working the round in reverse. The stitch, although it feels slightly different, is worked in exactly the same way as a single crochet. So you want to pop your hook into the front of the stitch, pull up a loop and pull through both loops. Next stitch, again pop your hook through, pull up a loop and draw your hook through. So it is just working single crochets, but you're working them in reverse around your project. And you can already see the effect that it produces. It gives this great rolled edge. With reverse single crochet you can't generally work into the stitches afterwards, so it is only used as a finishing round, but I just think it gives any blanket that you make a really nice finished edge. So I'll just show you a couple more. Hook in, pull up a loop and pull through. Don't overthink it, it is just a single crochet in reverse. And you want to work these all the way around until you get to the beginning of the round. And I'll show you at the end of the round how I sew in my end that leaves you with a virtually invisible join. So once you've worked all the way around to the beginning of your round and you've worked into that last stitch, you want to then work 1 stitch almost back into where you started. So you're going over the first stitch that we worked. Then you want to break your yarn and pull your yarn through. And then the way I sew the end in to make this join virtually invisible is I feed the needle through the next stitch from front to back, pull tight, and you'll see it pulls that last stitch in and leaves the join of the round nigh on invisible so you can't see. And that is my favourite way to edge a ripple blanket. In fact, I pretty much use a variation of this edging method on every single crochet blanket I make. I think it's simple, I think it doesn't overwhelm the rest of the blanket, and it just looks great. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you found it useful, please let me know, and I'll see you again for another tutorial soon. Bye!